Welcome into the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, David James, a Thursday episode. We're recording on December 4th. There are a couple of Jazz games coming up very quickly, the Nets and the Knicks, but because this is coming out by the time the Nets game will likely have started or close to have started, we're not going to worry too much about the games themselves that are coming up.
I just find the whole home-road split interesting. I think they're a decent team at home, and I think we're going to see them continue to beat teams at home. And I want to say, they'll beat decent teams that struggle with really good teams, but teams in the NBA are different every night based on who's playing. So, check the quality of the opposition. They split their first 12 home games. Do they maintain that pace? Now, the occasional road win is what they were able to do through October and November. Literally, they don't play the full month of October, but one win through October, November on the road, and everything else is an L, is kind of telling and fairly predictable for a team as young as this. You would expect them to play better at home than on the road. So that's what I'm watching for on the road, is when do you start to see good road performances? And if not out of everybody, out of some guys.
This is a game playing against Brooklyn, even though I just said we weren't going to talk too much about it. If they don't win this game, they're not going to win a whole lot.
Yeah, the Nets look like the bottom of the barrel there.
And they lost to Charlotte, though, already, who's not a good team as well. So I think when you look at how this has worked out so far, the Jazz's winning percentage is 12 on the road, 0.12. If you were to span that out or spread that over 41 games, the Jazz would win 5 road games this season. And obviously 6-6 means they're going to win 21 home games,
26 wins. I still think they can get to 30, but it depends on when you play teams. How many good teams you face. You might get some wins against some teams because a star player or two is sitting.
And then you got to figure out how many you want to win. And that's going to be a big role as well. If midway through this season, 30 is a bad number and 25 is a better number, they'll win 25. If they think 30 doesn't matter and you can get to 30 and still hold on to their pick, which I think is going to matter still. I know that's what the big concern is for Jazz fans. As long as I think they can hold on to their pick, regardless of the win total, I think they'll be happy. And I think they're going to want to get right around that range where they're in maybe the 6th worst record in the league, and they're not that far off.
Makes sense to me. We'll see how it goes. You have a topic that I think is super interesting.
Quickly, before we leave the draft pick, because I do think it's not that interesting. Teams around the Jazz in that range are starting to win a couple more games. So I know there was a lot of concern earlier.
There was.
Is there going to be 6 teams that win 14 games this year? No, it's never the case. The Clippers get rid of Chris Paul. They beat the Hawks by 30.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
That was hilarious. And
they were so free to be happy of that anchor.
Yeah, and people don't like Chris Paul. That really will help. And it doesn't have to help 25 games. It has to help 4 games for the Jazz for it to matter. Dallas also starting to win games. They're 5-5 in their last 10.
And you brought up the point in a couple podcasts ago. Even though they're dated, they're fascinating and interesting. You should definitely go watch them all. You brought up the point that the schedule's going to get harder. Well, as soon as they get past the Nets to the Knicks, the schedule officially gets harder.
Yeah.
There are no obvious wins the rest of the month. There's some potential wins, and you check everybody as they come through town on the second night of a back-to-back. It's not like I think they're going to go for the rest of December because I expect they'll win some. But you could look at this stretch and say, well, that's a bad team they could win, and then it's 2 games with Houston. And even though Houston's good, you usually split when you play a team twice. Certainly if you play them at home, the odds of a split go up. And then, that's another bad team. So they could win 3 out of 4. I don't see a stretch where they can win 3 out of 4 after this.
Yeah, that's not going to happen a whole lot.
Right.
And even beating Houston on the second night of a back-to-back after you get crushed by them on a Sunday does allow Houston to lay down on a Monday. You got embarrassed. Keontae was embarrassed because of how he played on Sunday. It was the worst game of his career. 0 points, 8 turnovers is dramatically bad. So to bounce back the way he did, I thought was very impressive. And that's another sign of, it's another feather in the cap for Keontae George that this actually is different, that we are seeing true progress. This isn't a guy who's going to relapse into being old Keontae.
Sunday, year 2, I thought was clearly a relapse into old Keontae. I thought it was clearly second year Keontae. And I thought Monday was night and day, totally different, great bounce back. I think the message to him, almost certainly, I really don't see how to say this, is someone sits down with him. I don't know if it's the head coach. I don't know if it's the GM. I don't know if it's one of the assistants. Everybody's got a guy assigned to him. It's like, okay, the real pros, do you turn around, do you have a bad week and then you bounce back? Do you have a bad game? Good, you had a big game. That's better than having a bad week. But if you have a bad quarter, bounce back. Okay, if you have a bad possession, bounce back. How good do you want to be?
Yep.
The best players, they just have a bad possession.
You look at other young guys, even a guy from Keontae's draft class. Bryce Sensabaugh has not learned to bounce back from his possessions yet. He's just not there. He wears it on his sleeve. He's got a terrible poker face, and when he's having a bad day, you can see his body language shows it. And Keontae's played twice as much as Bryce Sensabaugh has. The reps are going to matter for Bryce, and I wouldn't certainly again sell my stock on Bryce Sensabaugh, but that is a major sign of growth for Keontae George.
I think that the sequence I would show him, because I wouldn't spend a lot of time showing him. I think people have to be accountable, but I also don't think there's any point in wallowing in it. Just make the point, but then move on. So if I were going to make the point to Keontae, there was a stretch. They're moving left to right on TV, and he's near the top of the key. It's kind of on the right side, and he's switching over to the left, and as he switches, he kind of fumbles the ball and just loses it. Okay. Since LeBron turns it over, and Kobe turns it over, and Jordan turned it over, and Magic turned it over, and Bird turned it over. I mean, Oscar Robertson turned it over.
Luka turned it over.
Okay, he turned it over. Pablo Mastrani, our RSL head coach, says this all the time. I think this applies to every sport at every level. If you are coaching third graders, you should work this into your next practice. Pablo says it's not the mistake. In his case, it's a 90-minute game. Here, it's a 48-minute game. Every second, you can do something wrong. There's all these moments. You're never going to play a perfect game. Right. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. He's got no perfect games.
Yep.
It's not the mistake. It's the reaction.
Yeah.
And his head dropped. And they had a fast break after him. And then he heard someone yell, and he ran a little harder, but he still ran top speed. And it was still in his head. He was playing backwards. And they inbounded the ball to him, and he didn't notice that although he and 3 of his teammates were in the backcourt, in between 2 of his teammates was one opponent. And the pass came to him, and he wasn't going to bring it up court or didn't want to or wasn't supposed to or whatever. And he just reached up and he punched it towards the teammate.
Yeah, off his forearm. It was very strange.
Still pouting. Still feeling sorry for himself over the turnover. And then opponent steps out, I forget which player it was, grabs the ball, and they score. And you're like, okay, Keontae, you just tripled the mistake, right? Don't drop the head. Don't punch the ball. The turnover, live ball turnover, top of the key, it's bad enough, right? Will Hardy's told us all a million times, live ball turnovers are worse than dead ball turnovers. Live ball at the top of the key is worse than live ball on the baseline because you're going to have fewer defenders able to get into transition there and try and stop them. But Keontae, don't triple down on your mistake. But I was super curious to watch Monday night to see what his attitude was, and I thought it was 180 degrees improved. Awesome.
Yeah, your first step, to your point, your first step probably doesn't matter that much. Because if you make a really good move first, and then you undo it by making a bad decision second, it doesn't matter what you did first. If you make a really bad move first, but you fix it with your second move, you're back to 0. You're fine.
See?
So
Right.
Your second move does have to be, it's that reaction.
It's a reaction.
Keontae has shown it. And yes, the games over the weekend, Sunday and Monday, were the best sign that he has really taken a major step forward. Quickly, over his last 15 games, 23.3 points per game, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 3.5 turnovers, a touch high there. But the big question for Keontae that's going to keep him in the NBA or not is how's he shooting the ball? 45, high 45, so almost 46% from the floor, 35% from 3. It's a good NBA player.
The 45-35 numbers, you can live with that. You can work with that. And as they get a better team, they get a better roster, I would tell anyone at any level, every high school player should know this. If you want to impact your shooting percentage, which you should, obviously, there's 2 things to do. One is the day-to-day work on the way to 10,000 reps, always getting shots up at game speed as much as you can replicate it in practice from the spots on the floor that you're likely to shoot based on your team's offense, right? Where are the 2 places I'm most likely to shoot the ball? Practice that.
Yep.
But the thing you can do in the short run is if you're someone who's good enough to take 10 shots a game, how many shots a game is he taking? More than 10 would be my guess.
Keontae in 15? This 15-game stretch, oh man, this disappeared on me. 17.
17. All right. Yeah. Not 15. 17 shots a game. So if one out of every 10 shots you take, so it's over the course of 6 games, he's going to take 100 shots. I just tell him, 1 out of every 10 shots, think, okay, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, that's 10%
when
of
you're
your
probably
shots.
going to miss.
Yeah.
And maybe one of those 10 will go in. But most of them you are going to miss anyway. Your percentage will move right away.
Oh, 10%? You imagine moving 10% in the NBA? Yeah, that's 35 to 45.
Right,
that's
but
huge.
I'm saying over the course of 100 shots, there's 10 he doesn't take.
Right.
one or two of them might have got in.
If it's 1 out of 10 you don't take, I mean, that's how it moves.
Yeah. So how do you turn a 40%? You're 4 of 10, now you're 4 of 9. Okay, you just went from 40 to 44%. And everyone's going to say, hey, he's really getting it. And all you did was resist your one time a game.
Quinn Snyder and Jordan Clarkson.
Too contested.
Yeah.
You're too contested now. Don't do it. Now, and also, does he have to take shots late in the clock because the 24-second clock's running out? On a better team, maybe somebody else will have that responsibility.
Yep. So. And knowing that it doesn't have to fall on your shoulders.
The other thing I would like to see,
and
I will bang this drum, I believe this for years. In this area of analytics, I can't believe it's already happened. They should be sorting out all the desperation end of quarter shots. For years in the NBA, guys have waited till the horn and then shot it, so it doesn't count. If it does go in, the crowd goes ooh and ah. No, I want all those points. So I am never, if I'm running a team, I'm saying, hey, we need a field goal percentage. We need field goal percentage minus end of the quarters. And every time, you won't have the ball at the end of every quarter, so you won't get 4 shots a game. But 2 or 3 times a game, launch it. It might go.
And Cleaning the Glass, which is a website that does analytics, does get rid of that. And then the NBA this year has said that no longer counts as a field goal against players, which is why guys are again shooting that shot.
Oh, thank goodness.
They have taken,
I missed that. The NBA did that.
So the heave now does not count as a player miss. It counts as a team miss. So now you are seeing players take those heaves again.
I want to see it every quarter.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot more guys take it.
I never ever want to dribble that. Don't.
No, there was really never any excuse to do it in the first place. Because if you had a chance to get points, you should take every chance you can to get points. But yes, when you were negotiating your contract, if you took 10 extra shots and you didn't take a lot of shots, it looked like a bad number. Yeah. Or especially if it was your 3-point shot because you don't take as many threes as you do twos. So the NBA has remedied that.
35 you can work with though. You want to get them to 40's elite. So, but can he get to 37 or 38? From 35 doesn't seem like a stretch.
And with the rest of the stuff he does, 35's fine. It's not great. You want it to be up at 38, 39, 40.
We're not building a nice team here.
But again, he was 32% to start.
Championship. Yeah. The progress is there. It's clear.
Okay, we don't do a mailbag when we do this on Thursdays. But if we had a mailbag, we know what the number one question would be from every fan.
Now we're getting to the meat of the topic.
Should the Jazz make a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Giannis, according to ESPN, Shams Charania and his people, whoever that is, are talking to the front office of the Bucks to say, do we think this is a match? Do we think this is going to last long term? Which really what I think means is the Bucks are going to give Giannis's agent permission to go talk to other teams to say, what's your best offer? What would you give up to get Giannis Antetokounmpo? That way the Bucks don't have to do the dirty work and they can say, yeah, we like this framework. We don't like this framework. Now we will make some of these calls and we will see what's available and we'll see how much more we can get in this trade. There are a lot of teams. In fact, there should be 29 teams that call on Giannis Antetokounmpo. There are going to be some teams that I think are obvious front runners. Giannis had mentioned over the summer that the other team he thought he would want to go play for is the Knicks. The Knicks, ironically, spent all of their draft capital and free agent space over the last 2 years waiting for Giannis. They finally gave up and said, no, we're going to go get Mikal Bridges. We're going to trade for Karl Anthony Towns, et cetera, et cetera.
And now this happens.
I still wouldn't rule out the Knicks. They still have Mikal Bridges. They still have good players. They're not giving up Jalen Brunson, but they would probably give up anybody else on the roster to get Giannis. And rightfully so. Giannis is better than every player, including Jalen Brunson. They should give up Jalen Brunson if they can get Giannis. Giannis is better than Jalen Brunson is. So you should do that. But there are going to be a lot of teams that will knock on the door.
Do you think people are going to step away from him based on age and injuries?
He is only 30, but his body is breaking down. He is never on the court. In fact, he said this yesterday afternoon, and by yesterday evening, he had
a calf injury and then headed for an MRI.
And it's always calves with him. Remember, he just kind of crumpled to the court in the first round of the playoffs last year. No one really figured out why. They figured out why, but it was just very bizarre. His body's breaking down, which is, if I'm a Spurs team, which is a Spurs team that should be interested in getting Giannis, I would be very worried about Victor Wembanyama, who is Gumby Giannis, right? You've taken Giannis and you've stretched him a little bit further. You left him in the taffy stretcher just a little bit longer.
Gumby Yama. That's awesome, dude.
See what,
that's well played. That could stick. You could have some. That could go viral.
I'll have to go after it.
Gumby Yama.
So these guys don't come around very often. When they do, you have to make a trade. Does it make sense for the Utah Jazz to pursue a Giannis trade?
No.
Explain.
I'm going too old and too injury prone.
Okay.
However, Austin Ains should absolutely be on the phone to Milwaukee. You never know. Mm-hmm. I would have told the Lakers, what are you talking to Dallas for? They Doncic, you're not going to. What are you doing? And it worked. So you always, And my answer will be always, you always make the call and you always have the conversation. Where I think this could be really valuable to the Jazz is, does this have to turn into a 3-team deal?
Yes, I think that's where it gets interesting. Because the Jazz could conceivably make this work. Because the Jazz have so few big salaries and the Bucks don't want Yusuf Nurkic, with all due respect to our guy Nurk, they want Lowry back. You have to have $46 million coming back because Giannis makes $54 million. So you need to start with the Jazz's biggest salary, and that's going to be Lowry. And the Jazz aren't going to give you Ace Bailey and Lowry for Giannis. Off the table. I don't see that happening.
Ace is a deal breaker.
So I think what you would say is you could have either Lowry or Keontae. You're not getting Ace. And then we'll figure out a way to make the money work. And I think at that point they would probably take Lowry still, because Lowry's 7 feet tall and 28 and in his prime, and the Bucks don't have any of their own draft picks, so they've got no reason to sink to the bottom because they don't get anything out of sinking to the bottom.
I don't like getting 3 years older and dealing with those injuries, but to make a third team to make it work. I mean, if the Knicks and I don't know who else are we going to throw in there besides the Knicks?
Bucks, the Spurs.
Spurs,
the Knicks,
Rockets
could be interesting. I wonder if, now that they are where they are with, I mean, they certainly could. They have a bunch of draft picks. They have flexibility. The Suns would love to. The Suns don't have any flexibility.
Yeah.
The Hawks will be a big name.
Yes, Atlanta's absolutely in the mix.
Orlando could be in the mix as well.
So
I would also throw Toronto in there.
If I were there, I think they're getting in a 3-team deal where they don't necessarily land Giannis. What do they have to give up? And maybe they don't give up so many players. Maybe they give up players of lesser ability, but more draft picks that maybe, because I just don't think they need all these draft picks going forward. But somebody else could really want these draft picks. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if they're going to Milwaukee or to whoever this mythical third team is.
Yeah.
Is this an opportunity for the Jazz to move some of these draft picks and some of the young players and get back somebody who's really good and pair them with Markkanen and Bailey? Well, I don't know. They're going to walk away from this with Ace Bailey. And I mean, they're going to have to give up some talent, right? Yeah. To have Ace Bailey and Keontae and Markkanen, who look like the 3 most, and Kessler. That's another interesting thing. Kessler wants to be paid. Could he be moved in all of this?
I think Kessler could absolutely be moved.
So I think that all of this needs to go into the hopper and see what's discussed. To give up your young guys to get a 30-year-old Antetokounmpo has multiple injuries. That seems to me like the fan base has just endured a lot to get young and to get the promise of hope. And now you're betting it all on somebody and it could all break down with a major. I mean, all these calf injuries just scream Achilles.
Yeah, that's what everyone's worried about. That's why everyone has any calf tightness, they sit them immediately.
To give up this much and to think Achilles at 31 or 32, no. And then, I can't believe the bad luck. No, it wasn't bad luck. He had 47 calf injuries. He was 30 and you traded for him. It's not bad luck. You rolled the dice. The odds were what they were and you lost. And I personally, if I'm the owner GM, I would not have to want to run out to a press conference and explain that to the fan base, so I wouldn't do it. But I'd be all in on a 3-way deal. And when the pieces start moving, well, tell me what you get back. Because I think they're going to have to move some of these draft picks. There's a bunch of them.
There's a bunch. They don't have to yet, but at some point they will. And the question then becomes, the reason they had acquired all these draft picks, is they wanted to have a lot of bites at the apple so they could see who was going to make it and who's not. And the other thing was, yes, to make these types of trades to go and get a superstar player back. The problem for the Jazz, I guess, in this sense, and it's why I agree with you, it's why the Giannis thing to Utah I don't think is going to happen, obviously, is they are not one player away still, is their other issue.
Right.
They are not, because if you're getting Giannis back, you're giving up Lowry, and then you've replaced, yes, 3/4 with $1. I mean, I think Giannis is that much better than Lowry.
But you've gotten 3 years older.
You're older, your window is not very long, and you're not good enough even with Giannis to win a championship. So at that point, it doesn't make a ton of sense. So yes, how do you find a way, if you need to be the third team, to add other pieces in the deal, get something done? Can you take something that you want from New York or from Atlanta that they have to give up to make the salaries work?
Yeah.
You take it back, and yes, then you include draft capital to Milwaukee.
Those are good
and
calls.
Get a really good player.
Those are good calls for Austin to make, to New York, to Atlanta, to Houston, to San Antonio. Very pointed. Hey, if you make a 2-way deal, good for you. But if it's not quite working, and someone's going to outbid you, call us. Let's get a 3-team deal going and see what that might look like.
Yeah, or if you're one draft pick away and it's the Suns' unprotected 2030 or whatever 2031 pick, we've got it and it's available. it's going to cost you OG Anunoby or whatever the piece, whatever the piece is, whoever it is, Atlanta. It's going to cost you Dyson Daniels, or it's going to cost you whatever these guys are, but it allows you to hold on to Zachary Riza or whatever.
And we tend to always, I find this fascinating about the NBA, and you can never really know it, but when a trade happens and you see it, there are people that everyone has an agreed value on. But then there are people that, somebody in the front office might value a lot higher or a lot lower. And maybe Austin Ainge, as he assesses the Jazz roster, has a value that's much higher or lower on another player. Or that player's valuable and I like him, but I know how to replace him. As a matter of fact, I know who I'll go get. And even if he's not exactly that player, he's 80 or 90% of that player. And given what we're picking up, I can step back 10% over here because of what we're gaining over here.
Who should trade for Giannis?
It's like they're two different leagues. I'm way more focused on the West than the East.
Yeah.
So I'm reluctant to say I just don't think it works with the Knicks. I know why everybody says it.
That's where Giannis wants to go. He wants to go to New York.
Then 3-team deal. But who do they have? What do they have? I don't. And maybe Milwaukee will just make it happen. But I think San Antonio and Houston have a lot of talent. And
they're close.
And they're close. So who can Milwaukee get to give up the most talent off those rosters? That team. Now, maybe I'm overlooking Atlanta. I can't believe they want Trae Young back.
No.
I'm super uninterested in the high-usage, undersized, high-flying, exciting guard. Derrick Rose's career and his injury, completely predictable.
Sure.
Sad. Everybody who knows him seems to love the guy, respect the guy and all that. But he played up in the air. He was smaller. Sure. Why are you surprised, right? Yeah. So now who is that kind of player, right? Jean Morant. How far can they possibly go with him?
Right.
I don't think they can go as far as other people seem to be hyping him for. Trae, same thing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
How far do you really go? Allen Iverson did it. Well, Allen Iverson is a freak on the basketball court. Mm-hmm. And there isn't going to be another Allen Iverson anytime soon. So stand back in amazement as he drags that team to the NBA Finals. Mm-hmm. But don't think, we should get a guy who plays like Allen Iverson and that'll work out really well for us. No, have another plan. That's not a great plan.
If you're making the trade, you do need to be a team that is Giannis away. And what that actually means is Giannis minus whatever you're giving up. It's the difference between what you're giving up and what you're getting back, because you're not getting Giannis without giving up some of your best players as well.
I just wonder if Houston, and I don't know the answer to this, and maybe you do. Maybe you've talked to some of the Houston media. How all in are they? Because they're all in as soon as they went to Durant. They're thinking, well, you think you can win a title
they did.
in 2026 or 2027. So for them, go get Giannis. You're all in on 26, 27 anyway. And if you get one and then there's another rebuild, well, so what? You got one.
You're probably talking about, I'd have to reset this all the way over. Again, and this is the funny thing, and this is where I do think teams generally get it wrong. And you got to credit the Raptors, who didn't give up a ton. They gave up DeMar DeRozan to go and get Kawhi, and they won a title, and that's all that ever matters. You've got a Kawhi, you've got a championship.
You got a championship.
Your fans will remember that forever. Yeah. That's what everyone should be trying to do. The Rockets, I don't think would trade Amen Thompson, their young star right now, for Giannis, which truthfully is probably a mistake. You should probably go get Giannis to team with Kevin Durant and the other infrastructure you have around them and say, we think this is our best chance to win a championship, and if we don't, we're going to move off of some of these pieces and start over, and I think you can always do that. But yes, they would probably have to include like an Alperen Şengün and then whatever salary minus Amen Thompson, and then whatever draft picks they have. They have a bunch some still from Phoenix and the James Harden trades and all the weird things they've done. I think that makes sense. And then San Antonio has, you've got all these guards, trade De'Aaron Fox and trade Keldon Johnson and give them every draft pick you can and give them one of Steph Castle or Dylan Harper, whoever it is. And it's probably worth it because you put yourself in that conversation to be able to win a championship, and it's hard to do. San Antonio's funny because they have weirdly won a lot of championships in the last 20 years, and they may not be as desperate for it as some teams.
They may not be desperate, and they may think they already have their championship roster, and they just have to stick with it and not go all in on the veteran and shorten their window the way Phoenix did.
Right.
Phoenix had been in the NBA Finals. It looked like if they run it back, you never know, but it looked like, well, they're going to be in the mix again. Maybe you get there, maybe you don't, but you're going to be in the mix. They go all in on Durant, And you ever type in and look at list of blank seasons? You just type in a nickname, you go like Phoenix's trajectory after the NBA Finals was straight down.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so I don't know, but at this I see Houston as being all in a way and close in a way that Atlanta, and maybe Atlanta says, hey, let's go all in, because just getting to a conference final or an NBA final, if we don't win it all, is a massive jolt of adrenaline for a franchise that has struggled for relevance in the market. Georgia is football country. Even when the Falcons are mediocre, which is a lot of the time, they still resonate. And the Braves have been really good, and everybody loves a winner. What is the Hawks' role in that? They're there.
They're there.
Georgia football's over here.
Yeah.
You know, it's crowded. I mean, they're not hockey. Hockey's tried in Atlanta twice and moved. You know, but the Hawks, I could see where the Hawks do it. But again, I'm not nearly as dialed into the East as I am and try to be dialed into the West.
The nice thing for the Hawks, if you're just trying to sell it on the court, not selling to fans, is that you get to the finals against the Thunder, and you can have an argument, even though I think Shea's going to repeat as the MVP, that you might have the best player on the court still. I mean, that's why Giannis matters, right? Giannis, over a 7-game series, can be the best player on the floor against anybody on the planet. If he's healthy, he can score 50 and have whatever 8 blocks or whatever it was and 15 rebounds in a closeout Game 6 finals game, which he did against the Phoenix Suns. He's that good.
Yeah. I have 3 images of Giannis. One is Giannis winning the championship. One is Giannis laying on the court, holding different body parts at different times. And another one is Giannis at midcourt. I can't remember. I think they were trying to repeat. It might have been 2 years later, though. But they were deep in the playoffs, and it was late in a playoff series, and there was less than 10 seconds left in the game, and I think there was a held ball and a jump ball or something. And the ball came to him, and he did not want it, and he got rid of it.
Yeah.
Didn't want to shoot free throws. If you're close to the title, he is an asset. He helps you in so many ways, but I think he fits in Houston because, if you can get him a layup or dunk, great. But if you need a big shot, you're going to Durant anyway. And if you need big free throws, you can put the ball in somebody else's hands.
I think you're right. And I love Giannis. I mean, Giannis, among the great players right now in the NBA, he might be my favorite of this era. And I love Shea, and I love watching Jokic, and those guys do truly remarkable things all the time. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all. Just as far as two-way player, does it the right way, has tried to stick with a small team. I know he's now trying to move out of this market, but has really put in the work to stick with Milwaukee and rewarded them with a championship. It's really, really impressive. I am not sure that he is one guy who by himself takes you to a championship, because if he was, the Bucks would have won more than 49 games 3 years ago, 48 games last year, and on a 10-13 pace this year. And I know he's hurt, but that's the problem. He's also hurt a lot. So he's not on the floor enough to put you in an advantageous spot to win a title. So I don't think the Jazz would get involved for a one-off trade for Giannis. I mean, they would get involved. They would have to call. And if you could pay 10 cents on the dollar, you do it. That's obviously not what the Bucks are going to take. And as we mentioned, Hawks, Spurs, Rockets, I think is a very good call. Knicks, Magic.
The more we talk about
Raptors.
we hadn't gotten into the Magic.
Yeah.
That's
all those teams
a super interesting one. There's a team that has drafted, had an elite draft position for a long time, which is a nice way of saying they sucked forever. And I keep waiting for them to take off, and they have injuries, and that holds them back. But, boy, if they could be healthy and add a healthy Giannis, you can see the positive upside.
And you could do
They could also have more injuries and then have a Giannis injury, and it'd just be a massive disappointment.
But you could do either Paolo or Franz Wagner, and then you keep the other one, and then you have, Desmond Bane and Giannis, and all of a sudden you say, yeah, we think we can win it. And I get why you would think that.
Yeah, and I get we can do all the statistical stuff you want. Adding Giannis to a really young team, I think, would give the group belief. Hey, I always thought we were going to do it. Now I think we can do it right away.
Yeah. All right. I think that concludes our Giannis conversation. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back with you again on Monday. There'll be a lot of Jazz games in the books between now and then that we will recap. And, of course, we'll take your mailbag again. More Jazz notes coming up on Monday.